Several of you have asked me for ideas for using chip beads in your jewelry designs. It's understandable because we love their funky irregularity, and yet that very thing is what makes them difficult to design with. Today I have for you a pair of earrings that plays up the chip's irregularity and makes them a strength rather than a weakness. Hey there creative people, Sandy here. Welcome to another jewelry making video at keepsakecrafts.net. So we all love chips, I think, if you like things that are a little bit different. There's just something beautiful in the rough irregularity. Here I have a whole bunch, probably more than I would use in 2 lifetimes, of tiger eye chips. I've always been a fan of tiger eye, even though brown isn't really a color I love, but they're just beautiful with the chatoyance, I believe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but that shimmer that they have. So the problem with chip beads is that some designs they just aren't going to work in. For example, bead weaving, where a regular amount of spacing in between each of the elements is crucial to getting the pattern that you want. These aren't going to work there. So we need to find a different way to design with them. And I love these kinds of designs that I made in these earrings where this actually shows off the irregularities and it's not a problem. To make these earrings, of course, I have a bunch of chip beads. I have some 3mm check fire polish beads in matte Victorian bronze. I got these from the dollar bead box, but you can use any smallish beads. Little 1.5, 2mm round beads would be cute. I just happen to have these. And it's nice to have a little something different just to offset your chips at the top. Here I have 3x5mm check glass cut rondelles in jasper, which I think is really pretty, and it's got the browns in there, but it's more of a white, so it goes really nicely. I have one larger bead. It's a 6mm check glass cathedral cut. You can see that on the ends. It's got this just interesting, really fancy cut. Topaz and white opal. All these colors go really nicely together. Our design starts with just a bit of bead stringing wire. I'm taking this opportunity to use up some 7-strand. I don't really like to use it, especially in necklaces or bracelets that I want to be drapey, but it doesn't matter so much in this design, and it's a fairly light wire, 0.3mm. It doesn't need to be heavy unless you're using big, heavy chips. I mean, these are all glass and stone, so it adds up, but these are still pretty light, so the lighter bead stringing wire will be fine. Now, depending on the size of the chips you have, you may vary the number that you have on your strand and also how big you want your loop to be. All I did to begin was string an alternating pattern of the chips and the fire polish beads. Now some of these chips are prettier than others. Some really have a pretty shine and some are kind of dull looking. So I pulled out the prettiest ones, of course, to showcase. By the way, if you love chips but are stumped for ideas for using them and need more, my August 2018 patron video is 7 ways to use chip beads in your jewelry designs. Some of these are kind of huge, like that would be a little crazy, but you could do that. So it's up to you. I'm kind of sticking with the medium to smallish ones. Trying not to edit or overthink too much how many I'm putting on. So what do I have? 3, 6, I have 9 chips. Just alternating with any kind of little spacer. What's helpful about using a spacer like this is sometimes these chip beads tend to kind of veer off at strange angles. Having a little bit of space in between them just makes it so they don't bump into each other at awkward angles. And it also shows them off. It sort of sets them off and frames them. So let's see, I've got 7, so 2 more. So if you enjoy my videos and you want more every month, you might consider becoming a patron. My patrons don't necessarily get fancier or more complex tutorials, but they just get more. My patrons get up to 2 bonus tutorials every month. All right, I think that one, I need to not edit. I don't know. I think that's, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm going to go with just something not quite so big there. So yes, they're kind of random, but there's a little bit of order to it. They're not too tiny, but just, I think the one on the other side's a little big. Oh, it's fine. I'm going to leave it alone. Stop overthinking it. But yeah, you can go to patreon.com and learn how to get bonus videos every month. I've added my 9 chips. Isn't that pretty? I like that. Now, interestingly, it looks like I really did use... Alright, yeah, those 2 last ones are really too big. They're just kind of... If they were all that big, it would have been fine, but those ones are just a little out of whack with all the rest, and with the other earring. It's funny, on some of my videos, some of you will comment that you would have done it this way or that way. I do a little bit of testing for every video I make, but I don't do extensive testing. I simply don't have the time to do extensive testing for every video that I make. So often, after a video is done, I will revisit a piece of jewelry. I usually wear it. My friends will all see it on Instagram, and then they'll see me wearing it because yeah, I want to wear test it. I want to see if I like it as much as I thought I would, and just how it works out, maybe discover problems with it, which I suppose would be good before making a video. And if I do paid classes, then definitely I do a lot more testing. But I just don't have time for the YouTube videos to do that. But there are many times where somebody will say, oh, well, I would have done it this way or that. And it turned out that, yeah, I actually did go back and change it. That happens quite a lot. All right, so there's that. And now I'm going to add the 3x5 millimeter rondelles. So we'll add 1 on each side and then a check fire polish. So don't ever be afraid when you're working on your jewelry and you finish something and you just don't like it. If you're just not happy with it, take it apart. I've reworked things many times, and sometimes there are some projects that no longer exist because I just took the entire thing apart. I just didn't like it. Took the whole thing apart, redid it all. So that happens too. Okay, I think I'm going to do, let's see, another pair of the rondelles and fire polish. And then we will bring these strands down from 2 to 1 in the design, 1 that goes up to the ear wire. Really now all it is just a little bit of decoration at the top. It's just a rondelle and then one of those 6 millimeter cathedral cut and a rondelle put over both wires. Depending on the size of beads that you have, you may need to change this up. You may need to have more beads here just to get a nice balanced look, and just a really nice teardrop kind of graceful transition here is what I'm looking for. For example, if these were, depending on the difference in these sizes, you might need to add another smaller bead in between just to get that taper to look good. The gap here isn't so huge that it's a problem. And don't worry about a little tiny bit of the wire showing. Nobody's going to focus on that. And if you've got 1/2 inch of wire sticking out, well, that's not good. A little bit of the wire showing where it bends to go into the bead is fine. Nobody will even really notice it unless you had screaming purple beading wire. I don't know. So there, we're nearly done. Now it's just the finishing. What you'll want here is a crimp cover that can cover 2 crimps. So use small crimps and a larger crimp cover, or if you only have smaller ones, then maybe, I think this is a 4 millimeter crimp cover. So perhaps if I had 2 millimeter crimp covers, I could use 1 over each crimp, because we're going to use 2 crimps to put this together here. My 4 millimeter cover covers both crimps here, you can see. So I'm going to slide a crimp over both wires. Okay. Now don't push this too snug. So many folks will do that, trying to make these gaps in the wire disappear, but look how different it looks. You can see it, I'm sure you can even see it on camera. This is all stiff and it just doesn't look nice. And I don't know that I'm happy with that bead. I think I'm going to have to redo that. But this is just nice and soft and drapey. Yeah, I'm not happy with that one. I'm going to redo that. Bummer. That's better. Okay, I suppose that is another drawback of the irregularity of the chips, is that it can be a little too crazy. But the good news is that all you have to do is pick through your pile and you'll be able to find something that will work. I've got my one-step crimper here. I'm just going to pop that in that little spot. If you want to learn more about this tool, I've done a whole YouTube video on it. I'm pulling it snug and then I'm loosing it. Can you see the difference? It's amazing to me just how much nicer the quality of the earring looks when you just loosen that wire a little. Okay. I love the one-step crimper. Give that a good tug and test because you don't want your earring coming apart. Make sure that's good. Go ahead and trim the shorter one. Might as well trim the shorter one. Doesn't really matter if they're both long enough. Oh, did I say at the beginning, I cut about an 8-inch piece of wire, by the way. Okay, almost done here. We just have to go through another crimp, through a wire protector, this little horseshoe shaped thing. You could skip the wire protector if you don't have them, but your earring is going to be stronger and look more finished once you have it. You can see it up here. If you just have a loop of wire, that would work functionally, but it wouldn't be as strong. What this protector does, sometimes it's called a wire guardian, is it just keeps your wire from rubbing. So it's a solid piece of metal that is between the flexible wire and the part that it kind of swings and dangles on. So it just keeps it from rubbing, which means it's much less likely to get worn through and break. Okay, and then it goes back through the crimp. Well, depending on what you're going to use for a crimp cover, if you're going to use 2 smaller ones, you might want to leave a little space. I'm using one big one, so I want them really close together so that my big crimp cover will cover them both. Give that a pull. It's strong and in there. And then trim that wire. And the last step, well no, second to last step, the penultimate step is to add the crimp cover. And notice I'm using crimping pliers. There's a tool I saw at, I think it was Michael's. It was a crimp cover closer, and I reviewed it on my channel. I'll have a link to that. I didn't really like it. I thought it was just annoying to use, and I prefer to just use my crimp covers, like my crimping pliers, to pick up and close crimp covers. In fact, I should just take that tool off of my stand. I don't use it. And here is a leverback earring finding, which I talked about last week. I love these things because it's just blink, it's done. You don't have to fiddle with like the little stopper on your fishhook ear wires, and it's secure and it's easy. I sort of love them these days. Now, because that wire protector is kind of big, I gotta open that pretty wide. There we go. And there you have it. Chip bead earrings that really play up the interesting irregular shapes of the chips. So if you want more ideas for using chip beads in your jewelry, be sure to check out my Patreon video. So if you sign up for Patreon today, you'll be able to access over 24 bonus tutorials actually on Patreon. Just something to think about if that is interesting to you. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you make a project like this. I'd love to see your results. Happy creating. Bye-bye.